Professor Armando Fumagalli is a development consultant for Lux Vide Productions and has consulted on numerous scripts such as the Medici and Anna Karenina TV miniseries. He is the director of the master's program in screenwriting, fiction, and movies at the Catholic University of Milan, Italy. Listen in as we discuss the screenwriting process, the role of stories in the culture, and the importance of faith in the life of a storyteller. Benedictine College is transforming culture in America, one conversation at a time. From our studios in Atchison, Kansas, these are the Benedictine Dialogues. Well, Dr. Fumagalli, wonderful to have you here. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
It's a great pleasure to be here.
Yes, well, it's an honor to have you here on the Benedictine Dialogues. And of course, one of the first questions I want to ask is, what are some of the projects you've worked on that really bring you a lot of joy and really you see as some of your best?
Well, I must say many of them. And it's a fortunate situation. I'm very happy with the work of consulting that I've been doing. Also, I must add a part of this joy is also to work with former students of the program of which I'm director, that many of them are really excellent creative producers, are excellent writers, so it's also a joy to work with them. But if I would pick some, I would say for sure the TV movie, the miniseries about John Paul II, for my connection with the figure of John Paul II, for many, many reasons. Also because it had a great, it has been broadcasted in many, many countries in the world, including the United States in NBC. And also from an artistic point of view, I liked a lot the two literary adaptations of Russian novels that are, one is War and Peace of 2007. It was a 7 European countries co-production. Easy, not difficult to write by the writers, because when you have a novel, it's always easier than to start to do a biography, because the life of a person has inside many different stories, so you have to choose. While a novel, maybe you have to adapt something, but you have characters, you have storylines, you have themes. So I was saying, not very difficult to write, but it was complex, the process of co-production among 7 countries. War and Peace, and the other one is the Anna Karenina of 2013, so it came out just after the one with Keira Knightley. It was in 2 episodes, but I think also from an artistic point of view is very well achieved. The director is a Canadian director, Christian Duguay. The main actress is an Italian actress, Vittoria Puccini, with another international cast, Santiago Cabrera and many other, Benjamin Sadler, that is German. And well, we had also 2 full episodes, so the writer has been very, very good in putting to the screen what normally doesn't happen with the adaptation of Anna Karenina. I mean, all the different storylines that are in the novel, that is a rich and nuanced novel about different families, not only the story of Anna and the adultery and the suicide, but also other couples and other families, because the story is an exploration about love and about marriage, about family. So in this way, the writer and the director have been able to be fully respectful to the complexity and the richness of the novel.
So then what is it like, you've now got kind of 2 different genres there, 2 different these styles, where one is just a biography of an individual, granted, one of the greatest individuals of the last 150 years perhaps, but then these others that, especially something like War and Peace, that is so rich and thick, and as you said, there's already a storyline involved, but there's, I mean, you could make multiple movies just about the stories. How do you kind of work those out?
In the case of War and Peace, the format was 4 episodes of 100 minutes. So we had around 400 minutes, so we could respect a big part of the big book that is War and Peace. For sure, there are not minor characters, etc. And in some cases, probably you needed a little bit more time to explain something of the characters. But mostly, I would say it has been very well achieved, very well achieved. Obviously, any adaptation is an interpretation. So we have, for example, the second episode that is like Jane Austen reads War and Peace, but the complexity of the novel, the richness of the novel is mainly respected. Is mainly respected, and also I think personally that the people who do the casting did the casting very well. Also of minor characters, because we have had 3 main countries that are Italy, France, Germany, that had each one of them one of the main characters, and then the other was split into other countries, many Russian, Polish, Spanish actors, besides the Italian ones and the French ones and the German ones.
Yeah. And then what's it like creating a production around a pope? What goes into that?
Well, it was not easy, also because the Pope, when the company Lux Vide began to work on a biography of John Paul II, I think, if I remember well, 3 or 4 years before it came out. It came out in December 2005, and John Paul II died in April. So when we started to work on that, there was time in front of us, so it was not rushing. But when the Pope died and we knew that there were other projects, there have been 2 other films or miniseries about John Paul II, more or less at the same time, the commissioners and the producer wanted to rush to go into production. We were in a moment in which, at least in Italy, obviously John Paul II had been in all the news for days, for weeks, the funerals, documentaries, specials, etc. So it was also the idea, we went to the idea, let's say something that a documentary or a news cannot say. So to go very intimate into the character, to go into his deep feelings, to try to understand. And it was a responsibility because he's a very important public figure, so you cannot pretend things or be too much inventive. But for this reason, for us it was very, very helpful, besides all the thousands of pages that we had, the writers and me as a consultant had been reading about the Pope, a short 80 pages autobiographical book, small book that he had written for his 50 years of priesthood. That's called in Italian Dono e Mistero, I think, Gift and Mystery. That is his life seen by his own eyes. And so if you see the miniseries, it starts with the idea of we tell you something that you've never seen before. We go into private conversations. He calls his secretary, that then became Cardinal Jewish. He was known as Father Stanislao. He called him Stasio, that was the nickname. So from the beginning, we also, and the writers in a clever way, thought we have to give a sense that we are approaching more to the character than what they have seen in nights and nights and nights of news, documentaries, specials, etc.
Yeah, something about cinema that's able to go deeper into the human
deeper
person.
Into
right?
the human person. This is something that normally, I think this is very, very wrong what people think. Well, literature is on the intimacy, is profound, while cinema is only surface, it's only action. While good cinema is like drama, it's go deep into the soul of the characters. And most probably the film we like most in our lives are films that I'm sure very frequently, almost every time, they go deep into the soul of the characters. And if you do a film about a person, you have to do that.
Yeah.
I normally, when I teach in Italy, I tell them that there is maybe some of the people who are hearing us, maybe some have seen it. There has been a production made by France, a co-production with different countries. They spent a lot of money, I think like something like 70 million or 80 million about Napoleon in the first years of the 2000. And they made this big mistake of simply putting on the screen some anecdotes that we have heard in the history books. Okay, I know that. But in the script, they never go into the soul of the character. And we really don't know Napoleon as a character. We don't know him as a person. We don't know what he desires, what he fears, what is his preoccupations or his want. And normally when I teach, I contrast this with another biographical film that is A Beautiful Mind, that in 7 minutes it gets you into the heart of the character, and so you like him, you stay with him for all the journey, that is a long journey through illness, madness, until he won the Nobel Prize. But my view of a good biographical film is that you have to go really deep into the character and to make the viewer approach and be an intimate friend with this character. And this is the power of cinema, the power also of theater, the power, of, generally speaking, of drama that can be in theater, in television, in cinema.
And that's because part of, as a viewer, right, you're experiencing almost reflections of aspects of your own soul, right? So like Beautiful Mind is a perfect example of, we all have these weird eccentricities about ourselves that we don't always share, we don't always, show other people. We also have those moments where like, I'm just at an extreme, like, I want to be a loner for a while, an isolationist for a while. Sometimes we feel awkward in crowds. You see that regardless of who you are in those characters, so you come to love them, you come to reflect something in them.
Yes. And I think normally the connection, the very strong connection with the character is with the need of the character. What technically is called the need, that is something that the character is missing at the beginning and he has to acquire during the journey. There is a famous script doctor and teacher that is John Truby that we normally hire for our program, and he makes this difference between the desires, that is the external goal, that some other authors call the want of the character, and on the other side, the need of the character. So what the character is missing in his life and what he has to fulfill to become a better person, a fully realized person. And normally we connect very strongly with especially with the need of the character. Like going to another film, very famous, that I also use a lot, is Finding Nemo. Finding Nemo, I remembered when it came out, many friends that were fathers and mothers, they were hit very strongly by the film because 90% of parents today are too anxious, like the father of Nemo, like Marlin. And the film is about is a father that has his reasons to be anxious, and so we understand him because he has had a big trauma before. And here there is an anecdote that I don't know if many people knows that, but for a long time, what happens at the beginning of the film, the fact that Marlin has all his family killed except Nemo, was a revelation in the middle of the story. But they felt, in Pixar, they felt something didn't work, this Marlin is strange, we don't understand him. And then they thought, why don't we put this in a much simpler way at the beginning, so the viewer can understand why it's so strange. So, going back to this, the need of Marlin, the father of Nemo, is to understand that he cannot prevent any risk in the life of his kid. And this is a very, very important topic, and I think that many parents have been hit very strongly and very deeply by this film because they have, in some way, this kind of need. So this is the power of the film. This is how a film can work very well. Also, if we are not fish, maybe we are. Also, if one he's the father, maybe someone is a mother. But you connect not because the character is like you, but because because you have a common humanity and you have something that is similar to you. I remember once we had teaching the writer who won the Oscar for The King's Speech, and he was speaking about David Sider is his name. He was speaking about Erin Brockovich, and he said, well, what is at stake with Erin Brockovich is that someone acknowledges her dignity as a person. And so we connect deeply with that when we have in some way the same problem. If we have some way the same problem, also if she's a young mother of 3 and you are a 50-year-old man living in all another country, it's not the identification on exterior aspects, but it's how you connect with deep feelings and deep need. Let's say I need something that also she needs.
Is there something unique about cinema and the way stories are told? And the reason I'm asking is because, you know, I teach in the Great Books program here, and we just finished reading Homer, and we're getting into now the tragedians. And I mean, these works are 2,700 years old, and yet you still find reflections of yourself in Achilles, in Odysseus, in Zeus even. These moments of pride, of weakness, of lust, of all these aspects of what it means to be a human. And so we've been doing this storytelling for such a long time, and to your point too, of even in theater form, of in drama for a very long time. Is there something unique to the cinema experience? Because it's still somewhat of a new art. I mean, it's still been, only about 120, 130 years.
Yes. But for sure, in some way, it has common roots, in my opinion, with theater.
Sure.
Obviously, respect to theater, you have the possibility of doing more action, of making shorter scenes, something that in theater is not possible. I've been studying the process of adaptation both from literature and from theater, published a book, a couple of volumes with also some analysis of specific adaptation. And normally for adaptation for theater, the work that I use is Shadowlands, that has it's a film of '93, if I remember well, that is a very interesting story of double adaptation, because it came out first as a TV movie for BBC, then it became a theater play, very successful, then it became a feature film. So they made some changes, etc. But you see that the basic structure of the story, the basic elements are in the 3 form are the same. So in my opinion, good cinema has a lot to do also with good theater. Not by chance, Shakespeare, if you do it well, works very well also, also in cinema. And in last years, there have been some adaptation from theater that have been very successful, and many people do not know that these stories were written at first in theater, like A Few Good Men, for example, a film with Tom Cruise by Aaron Sorkin. Written by Aaron Sorkin, or a Chilean film that is called The No, was the first important film directed by Pablo Larraín. These are unexpected adaptations from theater, or also the very famous Amadeus. So I think cinema in this has a lot of common ground with theater. Then you have to be careful to obviously to shorten the scenes, to use also the visual language. You can cut dialogue using different tools, etc. But the core of the core, I think, is very common between theater and cinema.
And in all of those instances, because I also think of like Les Miserables, which has been both in the novel as well as theater, as well as the theater, many different forms of it, all of which have their own unique, special way of taking it in. But there's within all of it, there's this natural. A lot of modern philosophers call us storytelling animals, right? So you have the Aristotelian. Sort of like a political animal, you've heard logical animal, you've heard these other things. But I love that narrative of a storytelling animal. It's just within us. Yeah. What is that, and like where does that come from?
Yes, well, absolutely. It's the thing that we interpret the world as a place where people do something and try to achieve something. And hearing stories is like getting experience about life. So not only with biographical film, but through a biographical film, at the end, I want to know if someone was fulfilled or not fulfilled in his life. So for biographical films, I think it's very important also for the success, in some way, to give an answer to this. Was this life fulfilled or not? Yesterday we were saying something about The Social Network, the film The Social Network about Zuckerberg, that structurally is a tragedy, says clearly not. This life is not fulfilled. He begins with a mistake and he ends alone. But other films say yes, in a clear way, or other films sometimes make the mistake of remaining in the middle, and they are not clear, they have not a clear theme, etc. But what happens in a very strong way for biographical stories is something that we look for at the end in any story. We want to understand what is worth fight for, what is worth look for, what is more important between two different goods, on what is the less bad of two different risks or two different evils. So for this reason, stories give us experience. I am happy that this is more and more recognized also for, at least in Italy, also for general aspects of education. I published a short article, it could be 25 years ago or more, saying that, stressing the importance of literature, but also cinema, good cinema and good television for helping people to also in their future profession, because good literature gives you an understanding of human life, of the different aspects of existence, of life, etc., that can be very, very important for lawyers, medical doctors, nurses, educators, any kind of professional, business people, any kind of professional. This helps a lot, and I'm happy that, for example, in many American universities, you have these courses on the great literature, the great books that we, at the moment, don't have. It's very, very, very rare. It's the study of literature is much more, let's say, technical, but not on the content itself or what it says about human life.
Yeah, and that's it, right? It's peeking into something of anthropology, of what it means to be a human person, right?
Yep.
And I think then there's a huge weight or responsibility on the storytellers themselves about how to do that right? I mean, this has been a debate since Plato, as far as what does storytelling do? What do poetics do to the human person? So, what's your insights or thoughts when it comes to the responsibility of the storyteller, especially when it comes to moral issues or ethical issues, these kinds of things?
Obviously, the responsibility is very, very strong, because a good story can change the life of a person. A good novel, a good film, a good TV series can really change the life. For example, there is in Italy there is a writer that is also a teacher. His name is Alessandro D'Avenia, He's very well known. He's a best-selling novelist, but he's still also a teacher in high school because he wants to have contact with real people, not only go around on festivals and shows, etc. And he says that he decided to be a teacher watching Dead Poets Society. That was the film that changed his life. But I'm sure millions of people can say something similar with different films, with different novels or so. Really, stories can change life. And this is the basis of the responsibility of a storyteller. Also because a story, that we like it or not, is immersed in that it's full of some kind of rhetoric. So a story stresses something and probably hides something else. I was mentioning before the social network, for example. The social network stresses the fact that Mark Zuckerberg at the end of the story is alone. It makes us forget that he has probably $30 or $40 billion. You don't think about that. Yeah. You only think that this poor guy is alone, he has no friends. And for example, The Godfather, at the end of the story, makes you root for a man who is a killer and who kills all his enemy. And I'm sure 90%, the film was structurally intended, it's one of the greatest films of all history, but it was initially intended as a tragedy. But probably the writers were so concerned with the fact that the audience would not stay with the main character, that they give always very strong reason why he does what he does. And from some moment on, he kills people, or he orders to kill people. So at the end of the film, you sometimes forget that he's a killer, and you are happy because he's the head of all the families. He has won. He's the king. You feel he has become the king, while he has become a devil. And this is the very strong and very well done rhetoric of the story. So it happens in many different aspects. Also, one of the films that I use a lot for teaching love stories and romantic comedies is You've Got Mail with Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan. If you have never been in New York and you see that film, you think that New York is a tiny town with everyone knows each other in the neighborhood, etc. But if you compare that with the Gotham City that is in some other films, they look two different towns. It's rhetoric in the sense that they show you something and they don't show you all the other side. But this is obviously very, very strong about the choices of the character. Or sometimes they can tell you, or they want to make you feel that the best thing for someone is, I don't know, to kill someone who is old and sick in favor of euthanasia. There are, at the moment, a good number, especially of European film, in favor of euthanasia, like a form of love. But this is rhetoric. So it's the power of films that can convince you of something that is really true, like A Beautiful Mind, that tells you that for a person it's not so important to be so brilliant intellectually, how much is important to have someone to love and to be loved. And this is, in my personal opinion, very true. Or they can be able to convince you that about something that is really wrong. So this is a delicate tool, and for this reason we need very good and honest and truthful storytellers.
How do we navigate the seemingly competitive claims of faith and science? When it comes to creation, some people have this legitimate concern: if life evolved, does that mean God's not necessary? Dr. Ramage, if we no longer accept the ancient cosmology, how do we know anything's true anymore? Atheists and Christians alike tend to unite in seeing the Bible and science as mutually contradictory. But the Catholic Church actually thinks quite differently, that from the very beginning, God has been perceived in the things that were made. How do God and creatures work together? What is the relationship of creation, God, the history of life? And what does knowing the created world reveal about God? I'm Dr. Matthew Ramage, full professor of theology here at Benedictine College, and this is Faith in Science.
So how then would you work with, let's say, a screenwriter who wants to deal with something very dark? You know, I think even of certain Christian films that sometimes they don't go dark enough if they're dealing with something that's part of human history or human nature. And so there's kind of this comparison sometimes between Protestant-made films and Catholic films, that Catholic films are willing to go into the depths of the bad, of our nature. But sometimes too, you have ones that go to the depths and they just stay there. So how would you kind of coach, like, deal with it, but we've got to show people how to work with it?
I think, well, it depends on the person, obviously, but I would suggest to read Dostoevsky, for example, to read Shakespeare, because they deal with the dark side of the human heart, and they are able to make us understand also the darkness, but not love the darkness. And I would suggest something that maybe could surprise you, but also to look at some films of Frank Capra. Because on a distance, you can think, they are a film where everyone is happy, everyone is good, but it's not like this. For example, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. There was a depiction, a representation of politics and of journalism so strongly corrupted that when there was the first screening, Frank Capra had to run away because they want to beat him and punch him because they did a premiere in Washington with the parliamentary press, with the political press, and with the politicians, because the depiction that he makes of politics and of press is a depiction of people corrupted. The fact is, we have, after many years, we have this sense of goodness, because in this case, there is our hero that, despite all his weaknesses, at the end, almost by miracle, he wins. There is something that Tolkien called the eucatastrophe. So the reversal in the last minute, unexpected, and at the end he won. But you can feel completely that he is weak, and on a human level he could lose everything. And also his good name, because they treat the character as a liar, as crazy, as having his own interests, etc. So I think that from these different examples, and for sure there are others of great writers that are Catholic or Christian and that have been dealing with the dark side of the heart, you can find a way to deal with the dark side, but not be in favor of sin, because sin exists, the devil exists, etc. But you can go through that and see also that there is another possibility. And you can do on different genres. Let's say you can do that on a tragedy. Speaking of Shakespeare, you have Richard III. That is the ambition, the exaggerate ambition leads to self-destruction. So at the end, his so big ambition leads him to ruin. Or you can do in other genre, where there is a good character that confronts the evil. Maybe the good character can be defeated or can be partly defeated. For example, in Braveheart, for example, our good character is defeated at the end. I spoke with Randall Wallace, that is the screenwriter, and someone that was with me asked him, but weren't you scared about making a film for Hollywood, big production, without a happy ending? Because at the end the character does not win. He is defeated, he dies, he's tortured. And in a very candid way, Randall Wallace answered, well, but for me, there is a happy ending because he's faithful to his ideas. So this is for me an happy ending. Also, we have to say that at the very ending of the film, they say his sacrifice gave birth to other things. And so there is the hint or the road to something good that after this sacrifice has happened. In some way, also Gladiator has a similar ending. Gladiator, in some way, learns a lot from Braveheart. Braveheart was 5 years before the Gladiator, because at the end he dies. But rhetoric, good rhetoric, they have been so clever to prepare this ending that they have set up the fact that he wants to go to see his wife and his son in the Elysian camps in the afterlife. So he is dead, but he is in some way with his family. And I don't know if you're aware of that, but the first image that opens the film was a suggestion by the editor.
Oh, really?
Yes, Pietro Scalia, if I remember well his name, he suggested to open the film with this foreshadowing that is the hand of the Maximus with the grass, with the corns, and that is an image of the afterlife, and then you see it at the end. But this is also a way of dealing with a dark side, or with the power of the bad guys or the evil.
And the darkness of death itself as part of human nature, right?
Yep.
That there's a piece of him that lives on, although he's still going to be sorely missed, right? And so that also gets into the question of the importance of religious faith when it comes to creating good story. Maybe speak to a little bit of that.
Well, as in stories, you deal what is most important in life, and probably you can have also a sense of what is important and be true and be true. Maybe also if you don't, at least in many areas of human life, if you don't have an explicit faith. We have many good films that say something true about human life, in which maybe the authors don't share a faith. But there are very important dimensions of human life that are dependent on the fact that you accept that there is a God, that there is a providence, that there is a life after this life. And so to be able to tell the truth, I think it's very important to share these basic and very important aspects of what we understand is to be a human person. Then, obviously, you have also to be good in telling stories. It's not enough to be a person of faith, because there is all the aspect of let's say, the technicalities that are not only technicalities, but is the thing of going deep, the thing of don't be preachy, the thing of trying really to explore deeply a theme, not just to repeat something that you know, like if you want to simply make some kind of propaganda. Well, also if you are right, sometimes maybe you are right, but you are also boring. No? You can be right and boring at the same time, no? Or be entertaining and wrong. The good thing would be to be entertaining and also right. That is not easy, obviously, because We are used to a kind of very sophisticated storytelling that is never easy to achieve. And normally, a good film requires lots of work, very patient. I remember a very important screenwriter, Oscar level, who did well before setting out to my best friends something and asking them advice. I do normally around 10 drafts of a script, and this is just the beginning. Then I have a couple of people, colleagues that I trust, and they give me feedback, and then I begin to present this to a production company or a studio, etc., and then starts the process of development, etc. So it's a very, very, very long process, and in fact, some films that we see are really there is a tremendous level of craft and of depth and of details in every moment. I teach a lot adaptation on Sense and Sensibility, written by Emma Thompson, who won the Oscar, and for me is still probably the best adaptation of a classic novel to cinema. And every minute you find in every minute of the story, you find choices and deepness and wit and details that are really enormously well done.
Well, speaking of good storytelling, good storytellers, give me a little bit of the state of affairs in regard to the storytelling or the industry as it stands today.
Yes, well, a very important aspect when you think of the industry of cinema and television that I always tell my students, it's simply a fact, is the fact that at the end of the end, very few people are the people who really tell the stories that reach millions and millions of people all over the world. And this happens in every country. I mean, in Italy, I would say that with 100, 200 people, you have 90% of the TV series that are done in Italy. And it's a very small number. I was interested in seeing that all the writers that are in the WGA that have just finished the strike are 11,000. So if you cut probably 60 or 70% of them that are good people, they write, etc., but they are not the creators, they are not someone who really has done anything original, but probably they work in episodes of TV series written by others. Probably you come down to 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 writers, and if you add some hundreds of producers and of executives in studios, you find that 90% of what people watch all over the world is around few thousand people. And this is interesting to think about because when you have these kind of numbers, you can have all the polarization that is possible in any kind of direction. I mean, there is no reason and there is no let's say, guarantee that they give a fair and balanced representation in many, many aspects of life. I remember I read many years ago in a very interesting book that is called Hollywood versus America, written by a cinema critic, Michael Medved. The book appeared in 92 or 93, and it was a very important book to do some change in the industry. He was joking about the fact that there was a certain film that was set in a small town in America, and he was joking about, it's the only town in America where there isn't any church. I thought about that because I was a few days ago in Columbia, Missouri, and I was very surprised how many big churches there are in the town. And it came to my mind what Michael Medved said, because also he was commenting the fact that in that time they did a research, they asked questions about participation to religious activities. And they said, well, in the 90s, more or less 40% of American people went every week to some kind of religious service, be it Catholic, Protestant, Jewish, Muslim, 40%. And in the people that are in the cinema industry, the number was 4%.
Wow.
So big difference, big difference. And I think this explains something, and explains also why in that film it's the only town in America without any church.
So I guess just to kind of wrap up the conversation, I'm sure a lot of our viewers would be interested to hear your advice as people who don't necessarily write screenplays or anything like that, but really enjoy film. How, as a devout Christian, devout Catholic, do we keep ourselves in line with our morals while still enjoying good film, which sometimes doesn't always agree?
Yeah.
What advice would you give?
Yes, this is a very good question, and I think also the answer could be different from person to person, because obviously, as we said, the film is a very, very powerful medium, so for the good or for the bad. So also it depends on how much deepness and how much also culture you have, because some films that are apparently very honest, etc., probably they are not, and in some way they tell stories in a very different way from how they happened. In Italy, it has just come a film that is called Rapito, Kidnapped, by a very complex story of a Jewish young boy, 7 years old, that was taken away from his family because he had been baptized in the moment in which a maid of the family was thinking that he was going to die. Then after 5-6 years, for different reasons, they knew, the bishop knew that it had been baptized, so they made proposals to the family that he could study in a Catholic school, but they refused. So, and at the end, he was taken away because it was in the 19th century in the state of the Pontifical State, the state depending from the Vatican. It was near Bologna in Italy, and they took away him and they educated him in a Catholic school. And the story is very interesting because it's a very famous case, the case of Edgardo Mortara. And at the end, he became a priest. And he was always in love with his family, etc. But he said, well, I'm Catholic. And he became a priest, and he was a very good priest. He was a very good preacher. He went in different countries, etc. But for example, this kind of film tells the story changing many circumstances, especially on the ending, that if you don't know the story, you may think this is historical, and it is not. So this is just, let's say, a warning that in some cases you have also to take your time to contrast, because there are films. We were speaking a few hours ago about Spotlight that has proposed an image of the diocese that is much worse than the real facts, etc. So, speaking about this, I think that besides this, I think that obviously you can have a good intellectual conversation also with films that don't share our Catholic view. But I think it's important to be, let's say, have the common sense of being reasonable, and according, maybe you have a PhD in theology, maybe you have only studied catechism when you were 7 years old, and this also has a different perspective, or you are 15 years old or you are 60 years old, you have a different experience in life. Because at the moment there are many films and TV series that, from the point of view of what is, for example, love, romance, affectivity, marriage, sexual relation, etc., are very deceitful. No? And so it's different if you watch the same thing, you are 13 or 14, or you are 60 and you have a full experience of life, and maybe you are, I don't know, a counselor for married couples, and you know very well what happens in a marriage, etc., while when you are 13 you don't know. So I would answer to be open, but to be also grounded in your faith, and to be realistic, and always try to, while you work in the, let's say, in the free air, also to alimentate, to give a nutrition to your soul with good food. I mean, also this is something that not only in cinema, but also in books, also in real stories. I think also we have this great richness of the story of the saints, that they are incredible characters in the sense that you discover people that is really unknown, but they have been real heroes, and they have done so many things, and you can learn so much from them, that I think it's good to, so to say, to go to these sources and to give this kind of food to your soul, for not just to have something that is a source of interior life, and with this interior life you can obviously have a dialogue with everyone, being reasonable. For sure, you don't send a child of 10 years to speak with a professor of philosophy of Princeton or Yale. Everything needs common sense.
Yes. Armando, this has been an absolutely wonderful conversation.
Thank you.
I could literally talk movies with you for hours. So.
Yeah, well, I'm very happy, and I like to, as you can imagine, I like to speak about movies.
It sounds like it.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for coming to campus.
Yes,
thank you for coming on the
it's been a
show.
real pleasure.
And thank you all for listening and watching. And we'll see you next time. God bless.
We hope you enjoyed the Benedictine Dialogues, a production of Benedictine College in Atchison, Kansas. To catch all the latest and support our growing platform, visit media.benedictine.edu. And be sure to recommend this show to your friends and family. Help us to transform culture in America, one conversation at a time.